DreAllDay.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This week's motivation, we're going to talk about what you know is killing you. Now, I know that this is kind of counterintuitive because I know a lot of you have heard the phrase information is power or knowledge is power, and what you don't know can hurt you. You probably heard all those cliches before. And in some instances, those can be true, but in a lot of instances, they can be incorrect. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how with the story that I illustrated with. There was this race, and I got this story from this man named Jack Canfield. He wrote the book. Have you ever heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul, or the whole Chicken Soup series? He got a whole series of books called Chicken Soup for blank blank soul, different types of people. So Jack Canfield, I was listening to him speak one time, and he told this story. There was this race in Australia. It's a 6-day race. And a 6-day race is like a long marathon. It goes for 6 days. I forget how many total miles the race was. It doesn't matter. So, of course, when you got a race like that, you got a lot of people who train for weeks, months, years to get ready for this race because they really want to win this race. They want to do well on this race. And you got to be in great shape. So when this race is coming up, all these, these young, fit people with all the newest running shoes and workout gear, and they all look like they're primed in the best shape of their life, they show up to the starting line for this race. This man, he also comes for the race. He had on a pair of overalls, like a jumper, some overalls, and some like work boots, like construction work boots. He looked like he just came from working on a farm somewhere. And he walks up to the starting line. The organizers of the race are looking at him funny, like, "Sir, are you here for the race?" And he was like, "Yes, I'm here for the race." And they said, "Well, you're not dressed like a normal runner." And he was like, "No, I'm fine. I'll be good in this." And they said, "Well, it's a really long race. You really think you're going to be able to run 6 days in this race?" He was like, "Yeah, I work on a farm. Sometimes," he was like, "I don't have a tractor or any type of vehicle on my farm. So with all my animals, my sheep, I run to herd my sheep up. I don't have a dog. I use my feet. I run around and herd up my sheep myself. So I think I'm in pretty good shape. I eat organic food. I go to sleep when the sun goes down. I wake up when the sun comes up. I think I'm in pretty good shape. I'll make it." And the organizers are just looking at each other funny. They're looking at him crazy, and they're like, "Okay, they can't tell him he can't race, right?" So the race starts. And when the starting gun goes off for this 6-day race, of course, all these young, athletic, primed, in great shape people take off. They just going. And this guy starts running, and he's running so slow, you could barely even call this running. Like, his feet are barely coming off the ground. He's like shuffling along in these boots and in his overalls. And then people are just looking at this guy like, is this guy really serious running this race? So the way that these races go, when there's a race that goes over several days like this, you run for 18 hours and you sleep for 6 hours. So every 24 hours, you run for 18, sleep for 6, run for 18, sleep for 6. So and this guy is running so slow, what happens by the time he gets to the point, once everybody's running that 18 hours and they get to the point where everybody stops and goes to sleep because, everybody's in the same general vicinity after 18 hours of running. Everybody is asleep in this certain area. He gets to that point. By the time he gets there, everybody's asleep. So you know what? Nobody's there to tell him, "Hey, you're supposed to go to sleep for 6 hours." So what does this guy do? He just keeps going. He just keeps running. While everybody's asleep, he never went to sleep. He just kept going and going and going. And over the course of this race, you know what this guy does? He broke the world record for this race by about 12 hours. Why? Because of what he didn't know. Because he didn't know that a guy who's wearing overalls and construction boots is not supposed to win a race that long. Because he didn't know that somebody that old who worked on a farm and didn't train for years for the race wasn't supposed to win the race. When he at first came to the starting line, people asked him, "Well, why you want to do this race?" And he said, "Well, I always wanted to do a marathon. This is the only one that fit into my schedule." So it wasn't because he wanted to win that particular race or even that he was thinking of winning. We don't know. It's just because it fit into his schedule. So it was his ignorance, his not knowing, because ignorance doesn't mean something wrong with you. Ignorance just means that you don't know something. And sometimes ignorance can work in your favor. Nobody was there to tell him that, hey, after 18 hours, you're supposed to go to sleep with everybody else, then wake up and start running again. Because if he had followed that, there's no way he would have won, right? Because everybody else is way faster than him. What he didn't know is what allowed him to break that record. What does this have to do with all of you who are watching this video? Some of the things that you do know, some of the rules that have been drilled into your head by other people, maybe by something you listen to, somebody who raised you, some people you hang with, someone whom you look up to who told you something they said to you has you thinking in a certain way, that you have certain rules in your head that I have to do things this way. It's supposed to be like this. If it's not like this, something's wrong with me. Those rules are holding you back from achieving certain things. Some of you have certain ideas that come from people that you, like I said, people you hang with all the time. Maybe a teacher you had, a coach you had, a parent of yours, a brother, a sister, a best friend. They had these certain ideas that they put into you, and you got them stuck into you now, and you probably are going to start transferring those same rules and ideas to other people, those same opinions to other people, and they're holding them back, and they're holding you back. So it's not always about getting more and more and more information. Sometimes you need to know less information. Think about golf. I don't even play golf, but if we think about the sport of golf, you don't have to play golf to understand this. In golf, it is a pretty simple game. I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple. You hit the ball with the club, and you try to get it to go into the small little cup, the small little hole on the greens, right? An older golfer, I read this in a book a while back. An older golfer and a younger golfer have a disadvantage and an advantage, respectively. An older golfer's disadvantage is this. A golfer who's been playing golf for 40, 20, 30, 40 years, his disadvantage is he knows everything that could possibly go wrong because it's happened to him before. He knows every pothole. He knows every pitfall. He knows all the embarrassments. He knows about all the nervousness. He knows about every time that he's messed up in his past. And all that stuff can build up in the back of that golfer's mind and get to his nerves and mess him up when it's time to execute. Not saying that happens to every golfer, but it can. That's a disadvantage of experience. The more you know the negatives just as much as you know the positives. The young golfer, the person who just came in the game, hasn't messed up that many times, doesn't have that much experience, that's an advantage. Why? Because he doesn't know about all the negatives. He doesn't know about messing up. He doesn't know about choking in the clutch. He doesn't know about what all the people are going to say about him if he doesn't win. He doesn't know about all the possible pitfalls and the negatives and the nightmares of losing a match. He doesn't know about all that stuff. So it's not always that knowledge is power. Sometimes ignorance can be power. And you have to decide which information you need to take in and keep and retain, and which information you need to reject and just completely ignore. And sometimes it's better to step into something knowing nothing, because your ignorance can work in your favor. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com. Thanks for checking out this video. Make sure you follow all my top content up here. Follow me on all your favorite social networks right over here. And make sure you are subscribed to catch all the new content I put on this channel every single day. Work on your game.